My name is Cassie, and I grew up in a house where love was measured in achievements. My brother Alex was the pride of my parents, an academic prodigy, a shining intellect. He was sharp but blunt. He didn't mince words, and my parents were always laughing off his poor behavior as being a quirky side effect of being a child genius. I was the athlete, the runner, the one who could only win through sweat and pain. To my parents, his success was inevitable. Mine, a hobby at best, a waste of time at worst. I never gave up, though. I had dreams bigger than anyone could imagine. I wanted to run for my country, cross the finish line, and get the Olympic gold medal 10 times over. Then, I wanted to train others to achieve what I did. My parents never saw my dreams as real. To them, only education mattered, and sports were a waste of time. They never bought or helped me get anything related to sports. When I grow up, I want to be an Olympic champion.
Don't be ridiculous, Cassandra. You have to dedicate yourself to your schoolwork, just like your brother. Otherwise, you'll never achieve anything but bringing shame on this family. And this is why I don't tell people we're related. I am embarrassed to have genes in common with such a Neanderthal.
You're just bitter that you can't run a mile, Alex, and everyone knows it.
How on earth did you grow up to be so rude? Go to your room, and while you're there, study. Maybe if you're lucky, something will go in, and you'll finally do something we can care about.
Dad, I come second in all of my classes and first in all of my sports events.
Second is first to last, Cassie. You know that. Now don't embarrass me further. Get out of my sight.
From an early age, I learned how to survive without their support. Alex had every tutor, every academic summer camp, every opportunity they could buy. I worked part-time jobs to afford my running shoes, my gear, my training fees. They thought I'd break, but all they did was make me stronger.
Cassie, you're fired.
What? No. Why?
Your parents called and told us you've been stealing from the tip jar.
We don't have a tip jar, sir.
No, but they know you've been stealing from somewhere, so I have to let you go. And to think you were such a good employee all these years.
Please don't fire me, sir. Please. I'm reaching the end of life on my sneakers and I need to buy more.
You should have thought of that before you stole from me.
I didn't steal. It didn't make a difference. I went home that night, furious. You told my boss I was stealing?
Of course not. Where would you have gotten that idea?
He told me you called and said I was stealing from the tip jar.
Why would you do that?
I didn't. It was a lie. I needed that job, Dad. It's the only way I can buy new running shoes.
I called them. You're wasting your money on running junk when you should be studying. Right, Dad? Right. Next time, think, Cassie. Stop bringing so much shame on our family.
I was utterly furious, but my dad wasn't going to say anything. I knew he was happy to let it slide because Alex was the golden child and I was the nuisance. The differences in how we were treated were always there, but the first time I truly saw it for what it was happened when I was 16. I had trained for months to qualify for the state championships in track. I woke up early, stretched, packed my bag, and waited for my parents. They had promised to drop me off on the way to Alex's academic decathlon meet. At 7 a.m., I heard Alex groaning from his room. He had overslept and missed the school bus. My parents panicked.
Alex, sweetie, don't worry. We'll drive you there. We'll get you settled in your hotel room.
Mom, what about me?
And what about you? Make your own way there.
The stadium is literally on the way.
Cassie, we don't have time for this. You should have planned better. Find your own where there. You run, don't you?
You said you were going to take me.
You're wasting my time, Cassie.
And so I ran, 5 miles to the stadium, barely making it to the starting line. I was exhausted, but I still won my event. When I called them to tell them, they didn't answer. They were too busy celebrating Alex's third-place finish. The next day, we were all at home, and I showed them my trophy. You missed my race again, but look, I won first place.
My gosh, Cassandra, what on earth has possessed you to laugh at your brother in such a way? Third place is something to be proud of too, you know.
Honestly, I never knew we'd raise someone so nasty. Go to your room and give that trophy here. It's your brother's now.
For the first time in a long time, I crawled under the covers of my duvet and cried. I just wished my parents would care a little more about me. I hadn't realized I was asking for so much. I had wanted to share something I was proud of. And not only was I shot down, the proof of that pride was lost. Several months later, it was time for us to graduate. Because we were born 9 months apart, but him in the late summer and me in mid-spring, so we were in the same school year. I was always second in class, but my extracurriculars showed more accomplishments. He was in debate, I was in track, he was in the decathlon, and I was on the soccer team. I was on student body president, and he quit student council when he didn't win. Ultimately, my high school career had been more successful than his, in both how much we did and how often we won. I never placed second, he rarely placed first. When the school prepared to announce the nomination for the valedictorian, my parents brought out 3 champagne glasses, one for each of them, and one for Alex. I watched from the doorway as the principal announced on livestream that I had won. I was thrilled. Finally, something undeniable, something my parents would have to see.
She must have bribed him.
What disgusting things have you been doing with your principal for him to have chosen you over Alex?
I walked away, stunned. The next month, when giving my valedictorian speech, I noticed that my parents were nowhere to be seen. They showed up only after I stepped off of the stage. Later that evening, I went out for dinner with my soccer team. Most of us were graduating, and the coach wanted to celebrate a perfect 3 years. We won every game. We were champions. During the dinner, it started to rain. My friends all left, and I stood in the rain waiting for my parents to come pick me up after they promised they would. They never showed up. Instead, they took Alex out to dinner to celebrate his potential. It was pitch dark in the middle of a storm, and the only way I could get home was by running. When I arrived, my dad shouted at me for dripping on the carpet. That was the moment I realized I would never be enough for them. Not unless I became something more than Alex could ever dream to be. The next day, I finally said what was on my mind. You didn't come to my valedictorian speech. I think you've taken this favoritism too far. I'm worth your attention too, Mom.
Cassie, you need to understand. We didn't want Alex to feel left out.
So you boycotted my speech? For him?
He's going through a rough time. You don't need us the way he does.
You wouldn't know what I needed if it hit you in the face, Dad. I needed you to celebrate my wins the way you celebrated his. I needed you to drop me off at run meets and pick me up after dinners with my team. I needed you to at least pretend you cared about me, but obviously that was too much. At 18, they kicked me out, told me I needed to be independent. They let Alex stay. He got a full ride, not because of scholarships, but because my parents paid his way. I worked for mine. That first Christmas break, I spent alone. Every call I made over the holidays went unanswered. So I stopped calling. I had friends, and when they realized I was estranged from my family, they started inviting me to spend time with theirs.
Honestly, Cassie, if anyone fails to realize how amazing you are, that's their loss. Come spend Christmas with my family.
Thank you. You're the best. I threw myself into my studies. I pushed myself beyond what I thought was humanly possible. I became a psychologist by day, a runner by night, and I did the impossible. I made it to the Olympics. I won gold. I called my parents. They didn't answer. I called Alex. Voicemail. The reporters asked me who I wanted to thank. I looked into the camera and said, myself. Years later, I went to visit Alex. He had become a businessman, just like my parents had always wanted. He had the suits, the office, the money, but he was still the same spoiled, selfish child. He complained the entire time I was there, how hard his job was, how I didn't understand real work, how lucky I was. Lucky? I worked for everything I have.
Oh, please. You got attention for running fast. That's not a real achievement.
We argued for an hour before I finally asked him to drive me to the bus station. As we drove, Alex was still ranting, his reckless speeding making me uneasy. He was showing off his new supercar, bragging about how fast he could drive. Then, he pulled out his phone and started recording a video for TikTok. Then, at an intersection, it happened. A child. Alex hit him. I gasped, reaching for the door handle. Alex, we need to call an ambulance.
No, we don't.
We got out of the car and saw the child lying motionless. I turned to Alex, my voice shaking. We need to rush him to the hospital. Instead, Alex panicked, then ran. He jumped back into his car, hit the gas, and sped away. As he took off, his phone slipped from his hand and fell onto the pavement. I went straight to the police. Meanwhile, Alex rushed home to tell our parents what had happened. By the time I got to the station, they had already tried to pin it on me. I sat in the interrogation room as the officers told me my own parents had accused me of murder. I laughed. Then I reached into my pocket, pulled out Alex's phone, and placed it on the table. Watch this. It was the TikTok video of him running over the kid. The trial was brutal. My parents threw every dollar they had into his defense. Bribes, lawyers, corruption. But the truth was stronger. Alex was sentenced to life. And the police locked up my parents for a few months for trying to cover up for their son and for initially trying to blame me for it. While they were in prison, they lost everything trying to save him. Their money, their business, their status. In the process, I bought their house. Just to twist the knife deeper, I even sent them pictures of me standing in front of it while they were in prison. After serving their time, word had spread, and their reputation was shattered. No one would hire them. They were outcasts. With no other options, they ended up working at a gas station. One day, I drove up in my luxury car and pulled into the station where they worked. I rolled down my window and smirked. Fill it up. As he focused on the task, I discreetly slipped an expensive piece of jewelry into his pocket. A few hours after leaving, I returned, furious. My jewelry is missing. The police searched them and found it in my dad's pocket. And just like that, they were both fired. Time passed. I won another gold medal, then another, then another. I built my own empire, one they were never part of. And for the first time in my life, I was truly free. A few years after I retired from running, I was called up. My business thrived as a sports coach. I handled everything from training to sports therapy. So imagine my surprise when I was asked to conduct a psychological evaluation for a prison inmate. When I checked the patient's name, I froze. It was Alex. I knew immediately. This was my chance for revenge. When I arrived, Alex's eyes widened in shock.
So you're the one sent to evaluate me? Tell them I'm fine.
I just laughed. Then I turned to the guards and said, "He's mentally unstable. He's a danger to himself and others." I made sure they sent him to solitary confinement, claiming he was a risk to himself. But that was just the beginning. I bribed the wardens to ensure his life in prison became pure misery. The next time I checked in on him, he was doing all the grunt work in the prison. What happened?
He managed to make an enemy of everyone here. He started by telling people that unless they were top of their class at school, they were beneath him and not to talk to him. Naturally, no one took to that well.
What came after was Alex being trodden down until he finally understood that he wasn't special. He was basically a slave to the other inmates. He ran messages from one person to another. He cleaned up after them. He served them their food and cleaned up after them. Any arrogance he started out with was quickly beaten out of him. He looked utterly miserable as he mopped the floor of the mess hall. The once golden child was now completely broken, and I never looked back. I left afterward. 2 days later, my cousin called me.
Anna, have you heard? Aunt Patricia's at the hospital. She's paralyzed. They said it was poison.
I already knew it was the tea. She tried to poison me. If I hadn't switched the cups, it would have been me lying there. I told the whole family what happened. They were shocked. One by one, everyone stopped visiting her. She was left alone in the hospital bed. Meanwhile, without her running the company, things started to fall apart. People resigned, clients left, and within weeks, the company closed down completely. Patricia lost everything. I later sent Patricia a bouquet of dead flowers with a card that read, "For everything you tried to kill." She spent her last days lying in a hospital room, with no one to care for her. No visitors, no family. My life used to be full of laughter and love. Every morning, I woke up beside Jordan, the man I loved and adored. He wasn't just my husband. He was my best friend, my partner in everything, and the father of our beautiful son, Micah. We got married young, but it never felt like a mistake. We built a small home filled with joy. I loved cooking while Jordan danced around the kitchen holding Micah in his arms. We didn't have much, but we had love, and that was everything to me. I still remember our late-night talks, when we would dream about Micah's future. Jordan always said,
"We'll give him the best life, babe, no matter what. He's going to grow up happy, just like us."
And I believed him. I believed we had forever. but forever ended on a rainy Tuesday. Jordan was on his way home from work. There was a heavy storm, the roads were slippery, leading to a fatal accident. A truck skidded and crashed into his car, and Jordan died instantly. When the police came to my door, I thought it was a mistake. I kept shaking my head, refusing to believe the words I was hearing. I kept saying, no, he's coming home. He texted me, he said he was coming home, but he never did. The weeks after that were the worst. I moved through the days like a ghost. I couldn't eat, I barely slept. Every time Micah cried, I held him and cried too. He was only 2, so he didn't understand. He kept looking at the door, waiting for his daddy. My savings ran out faster than I expected. I had stopped working after Micah was born, so I had no job to return to. I tried applying to places, but with no recent experience, nobody called me back. That's when my Aunt Patricia called.
Sweetheart, come work with me. I've got space at the office. You can ease in slowly and you can bring Micah until you sort out childcare.
I cried when I heard her voice. I didn't even hesitate. I said yes immediately. For the first time since Jordan's death, I felt like maybe things were turning around. The first day I walked into her company, I felt hopeful. Aunt Patricia hugged me warmly, held Micah's hand, and walked me around proudly.
This is your second home now, Anna. Anything you need, just ask.
She made me feel safe. She let me leave early when Micah wasn't feeling well. She even gave me a small office near hers. Every time she walked by, she waved or dropped a cup of tea on my desk. She made me believe I had a future again. I was so grateful. I worked hard. I stayed late when I could. I did everything she asked and more. I didn't want to disappoint her. I kept telling people how lucky I was to have her. But I didn't know the truth. I didn't know what working for my aunt would really mean. I didn't know that the woman I saw as my savior was about to turn my life into a quiet, painful nightmare. It started small. Patricia noticed how other employees admired my resilience and warmth. And the fact that she always wanted a child but never had one only seemed to fuel her resentment. Soon, she started hating me. After just 1 month of working there, she stopped greeting me in the mornings. When I said hello, she would just nod and walk away. I thought maybe she was just tired or stressed, but it continued happening until I had to stop greeting her. Then she started pointing out small mistakes.
This file is messy. Why would you submit it like this? Are you crazy?
But the file was fine. I checked it 3 times. Still, I said sorry and promised to fix it. Then it became more than just small corrections. She started shouting at me, in front of other workers.
Do you think this is a charity? You're not here to play. Work like the rest.
People started looking at me differently. Some avoided me. Some whispered when I passed by. I felt ashamed, but I didn't understand why she was doing it. I worked hard. I never came late. I stayed extra hours even when I was tired. One afternoon, I knocked on her office door and walked in. "Auntie, please, have I done something wrong? If I have, I'm really sorry. Just tell me what I did." She didn't even look at me for a few seconds. She just clicked her pen and looked annoyed.
You've just been bad, Anna, that's all. You need to do better.
Her words hit me hard, but I just nodded and walked out. From that day, I pushed myself harder. I came earlier than everyone else. I skipped lunch to finish reports. I double-checked every document. But still, nothing changed. She found faults in everything.
You didn't arrange the chairs properly for the meeting. You sent this email too slow. Do you sleep while typing? Why is your son here again? This is a company, not a daycare.
Micah only stayed when his babysitter couldn't come. He stayed quietly in my office with his toy and snacks. But my aunt didn't care. One day, she even told the receptionist,
If Anna brings her son again, tell her to go back home. I don't want to see him here.
That day, I cried in the bathroom for almost an hour. I didn't want Micah to see me sad, so I wiped my face and smiled when I picked him up. Things got worse. She made me clean the office after work hours. I had to sweep the floors, wash coffee mugs, even take out the trash, while the cleaner watched me and laughed. One day I wore a simple dress to work. Nothing fancy, just neat and nice.
So now you're dressing like a queen? For who, the security man?
Everyone in the office heard her and laughed. I wanted the ground to open and swallow me, but I stayed, because I needed the job. because Micah needed food, and because I had no one else. I told myself it was just a phase, that maybe she was angry about something else, that maybe, one day, she'd smile at me again. 2 months later, it was almost Micah's 3rd birthday. I had saved a little money, just enough to plan something small. Nothing big, just a few balloons, a cake, food, and drinks for friends and family. I wanted him to feel loved, to smile, to not miss his daddy too much that day. I went to Aunt Patricia 2 weeks before. Please, Auntie, I want to take the day off for Micah's birthday, just that one day.
Fine, do whatever you want.
Her voice was dry, but I was happy she agreed. I told my friends, sent out a few messages to some family members. My parents were both dead, so it was a small group, but it meant the world to me. The day came. Micah wore his little blue suit and smiled from ear to ear. I had saved just enough for a clown and a small bouncy castle. He was laughing, jumping, running around with other kids. I couldn't stop smiling either. I finally felt proud of something. Then, without warning, Aunt Patricia stormed in.
Anna, go back to work, now.
I was confused, thinking maybe she was joking. Auntie, please. I told you about today. It's Micah's birthday. I just wanted him to feel special.
So your job means nothing? Is this a circus? I'll teach you a lesson.
Then she did the unthinkable. First, she pushed Dom the cake then. She grabbed Micah and started hitting him without mercy. Right there in front of everyone. Micah screamed.
Mommy, Mommy.
Everything inside me froze. I rushed forward, but I wasn't fast enough. My friends jumped in. They grabbed Micah and pulled him away from her.
Are you crazy? That's a child.
What is wrong with you? One of my closest friends stepped forward and slapped Aunt Patricia right across the face.
Leave now, before we forget you're Anna's family and call the cops on you.
She refused to leave and tried coming for me, but my uncles who were present grabbed her and dragged her out. Micah was shaking in my arms. His little face was wet with tears. My heart broke into 1,000 pieces. The party ended early. I couldn't even smile anymore. The next day, I went to work. I thought maybe she'd pretend like nothing happened. Maybe she'd stay away from me. But the moment I walked in, she was waiting. She slapped me so hard, right in front of the reception. Then she pointed to the door.
You're fired. Get out of my company and don't come back.
I left, holding back tears. I didn't want to cry in front of her. I didn't want her to see me broken. But the moment I got outside, I called my friend Carol.
Anna, what's wrong?
She fired me. My aunt slapped me and sent me out of her company.
Come to my office now. There's an opening at my company. I'll speak to my boss.
I went there right away. Carol helped me with the application. 3 days later, I got a call that I had the job. And not just any job, it paid 4 times more than what Patricia gave me. And there was a free daycare in the building. Micah could stay close, safe, and happy. The first day I walked into that office, I felt at peace. 3 months passed, and my life had become peaceful again. I had a good job. My salary was more than enough for me and Micah. I even got to register him at a lovely kindergarten nearby. Every morning, he would hug me tightly before walking into class with a big smile. I felt proud again. For the first time in a long time, I could breathe, laugh, and sleep well. No more insults. No more walking on eggshells. Then one evening, Aunt Patricia called me.
Anna, please. Can you come over? I'd like to talk.
Her voice was soft and almost shaky. For a moment, I was confused. But then I thought maybe she wanted to apologize. I told her I'd come. The next afternoon, I walked into her house. On the center table were 2 cups of tea. I wondered why she prepared the tea before I even arrived.
Please, sit, please.
She turned around and walked into the kitchen, maybe to get something. I glanced at the 2 cups. Without thinking too much, I quickly switched the cups. She returned a moment later.
Tea, I've been thinking a lot. About the past, about how I treated you. I was wrong, Anna. I hurt you. I don't even know why. You didn't deserve it. Please, drink with me. Let's let the past go.
I lifted the cup slowly and drank, pretending everything was fine. We finished our tea and I stood up. Thank you, Auntie. I hope we both move on from all this. I left afterward. 2 days later, my cousin called me.
Anna, have you heard? Aunt Patricia's at the hospital. She's paralyzed. They said it was poison.
I already knew it was the tea. She tried to poison me. If I hadn't switched the cups, it would have been me lying there. I told the whole family what happened. They were shocked. One by one, everyone stopped visiting her. She was left alone in the hospital bed. Meanwhile, without her running the company, things started to fall apart. People resigned, clients left, and within weeks, the company closed down completely. Patricia lost everything. I later sent Patricia a bouquet of dead flowers with a card that read, "For everything you tried to kill." She spent her last days lying in a hospital room, with no one to care for her. No visitors, no family. Micah and I were doing just fine. Every time I looked at him, I knew life had finally given us peace. Thanks for watching.
I was even more shocked when Lily came to us and told a shockingly fabricated story to everyone. It sounded so real that I would have believed it if I wasn't the victim. I cried and begged, but no one believed my innocence. After all, I was close to the kids. According to them, I was being close to them to perpetuate my evil act and sealed their mouths with the goodies I bought them. My parents were even more disappointed. There was no way I could prove my truth. The girl was too young to serve as a witness. Her parents were so angry that they wanted to call the cops on me. However, my grandparents and other family members begged them not to, as it would be too much of a disgrace. Instead, I was sent away. My whole family cut ties with me, my parents included. I left in tears, feeling betrayed and deeply hurt. Did you grow up with extended families? Well, I did, and I regret it. My name is Sam, and here's a story of how I was falsely accused by my cousin. I was 20 and hadn't gotten into college yet because I'd wanted to work before going. I finished high school 2 years ago and got 2 part-time jobs immediately after. I was paid quite well and was able to save enough. I had a female cousin, Lily, who loved being around with me. One day, we were discussing as usual when she asked if I'd ever been in a relationship, and I responded that I had. I had a girlfriend when I was 19. I liked her, maybe a little too much. We'd both liked each other since I was 17, but only confessed to each other when I was 19 and began dating. It went smoothly for about 6 months, but she suddenly broke up with me. Her excuse was me being a boring boyfriend. According to her, she needed an adventurous man. I begged her, even in tears, but she refused, and eventually broke up with me. It was a sad memory for me. I hadn't been able to like anyone else since our relationship ended. Lily asking me about it only brought back the painful memory. I recounted my experience to her, and she appeared so sad.
Wow. I can't believe a lady would leave a man like you. You're handsome, hardworking, and super intelligent.
All but adventurous. We shared a laugh as I made the joke.
I'll say it's her loss. She could have simply told you what she wanted to explore. I'm sure you would have allowed it.
Of course I did. I liked her a whole lot. Honestly, I still do. It was true. I still liked her a whole lot and felt sad about her leaving every now and then. Lily suddenly hugged me, catching me by surprise. She rubbed my back, assuring me that I would forget about my ex soon. I didn't think it was possible, but I believed her. After the hug, she also shared a story about her relationship. According to her, she'd been in 3 relationships all her 19 years of being alive. The last one had completely broken her, as she loved him the same way I loved my ex. Turned out we were both broken. We laughed it off and spent more time together that night before she returned to her room. We became even closer after that night. She would often visit me at my workplace and smile at me. It felt good to see her there. Sometimes she would wait until my break time and we would go to a cafe together, where we would talk about more things. Lily was a very interesting person. She always had topics to discuss. I didn't have any friends, so it felt good having someone like her. However, she began to act strangely with me after a few months of being close. She would hug me suddenly, holding me tightly. At first, I thought it was her being affectionate, but it soon became uncomfortable. I didn't like how she would snuggle into my neck when she hugged me. Even more, I was displeased with how she began visiting my parents' house at night to pass the night in my room. If she didn't cling to me all night while trying to kiss me and acting like she hadn't intentionally done it, I probably would have been fine. When I couldn't take it anymore, I decided to speak to her about it. I told her to stop visiting my workplace and my parents' house. She agreed, and we only began meeting at my grandparents' house, just like before. I still needed to stop the hug. When you hug me, let it be a brief one. Don't hold me too tight or breathe in my neck, it's uncomfortable. She'd seemed devastated, and I nearly felt bad, but I shook it off. It needed to be done. We didn't stop our regular conversations, but the excess physical contacts were stopped, and I was happy. One night, however, while we were stargazing together, Lily tried to kiss me. I quickly pushed her away. Are you insane? I'm your cousin.
What does it matter? It's just a kiss.
It matters because we're cousins. I'd appreciate it if you never repeat this. Excuse me. I was so angry at her that I refused to speak to her. I didn't return her calls, nor did I reply to her texts. She tried to speak to me when we next met at my grandparents', and I ignored her. I wanted to be alone for as long as possible. I felt she'd grown too attached to me and was confused, so I wanted her to calm down. However, Lily had grown hatred toward me because I was ignoring her. It wasn't after 2 weeks before I faced her wrath. I was in my room when my dad's younger sister stormed in, crying. I was worried at first, but she suddenly slapped me, making me confused. What did I do? She grabbed my hand and roughly pulled me outside, yelling at the top of her voice for everyone to come out. My cousins followed, and soon everyone was gathered in the living room. It was then that she revealed it.
Sam sexually assaulted my daughter.
I was shocked to my bones. Her daughter was only 5, and I loved the girl's smartness. I bought her things like the rest of the kids, but that was all. How could I have done such a horrible thing to her? I immediately protested, telling her I would never do such a thing.
Shut up, you liar. Lily told me everything. She saw you.
I was even more shocked when Lily came to us and told a shockingly fabricated story to everyone. It sounded so real that I would have believed it if I wasn't the victim. I cried and begged, but no one believed my innocence. After all, I was close to the kids. According to them, I was being close to them to perpetuate my evil act and sealed their mouths with the goodies I bought them. My parents were even more disappointed. There was no way I could prove my truth. The girl was too young to serve as a witness. Her parents were so angry that they wanted to call the cops on me. However, my grandparents and other family members begged them not to, as it would be too much of a disgrace. Instead, I was sent away. My whole family cut ties with me, my parents included. I left in tears, feeling betrayed and deeply hurt. I went very far away and started a new life. I got a new job, went to college, graduated with great results, and got an even better job. I'd put the past behind me a long time ago and focused on giving myself a good life and building my own family. One day, 20 years later, I got a call from a strange number asking to meet him somewhere. I went there the next day and met a very handsome boy. He looked around 17 and so familiar. He introduced himself as Lily's son and burst into tears. I was surprised and confused as to how he found me, but I comforted him regardless. Once he was fine, he confessed to me that he'd found out how I was chased out of the family. Lily had divorced his dad when he was only 10, and he'd been in her custody. She was an abusive mother. He told me how she always hit him at the slightest provocation, forced him to stop speaking to his friends, and also locked him up in the house whenever she had to go on long trips. Those were only a few among other things she did to him. What broke me completely was his next revelation.
She was drunk last week and told me about how she made the whole family hate and sent you away after she lied against you. I also recorded everything.
He played the recording, and a tear fell from my eyes. He also showed me all of the scars and fresh bruises she'd given him, which mostly happened when she was drunk. I couldn't take it anymore. I let the boy stay with me that night. The next day, I took him to the house I hadn't been to in 2 decades. It was a Saturday, so everyone was there. They were all shocked to see me. My grandparents had passed away, alongside some of my family members. The others had grown old. I cried when I saw how grown my siblings had become. They ran to hug me. My parents had forbidden them from searching for me when they were younger. And when they were grown adults and tried to search again, they couldn't find me. I was surprised to see my aunt looking sorry and unable to meet my gaze. I expected her to hate me. Anyway, I told everyone what Lily's son had told me. After that, I played the recording. Everyone was shocked and looked at her with judging eyes. My aunt also stepped forward and burst into tears. According to her, she'd known Lily lied 2 days after I left. She'd taken her daughter to a hospital, and there was no sign that she'd ever been touched. I couldn't find the girl around, so I asked where she was. My aunt's tears increased. A strange man had raped and killed the girl when she was only 15, and her dad had died 2 years after, leaving my aunt as a lonely old woman. I didn't feel sad for too long. She deserved it after ruining my life by not speaking up about her findings earlier. Because of her and Lily, I'd been so scared of going near children and even females. I was single man at 40 because I couldn't get into a relationship with a female for fear of being accused of something I didn't do. Anyway, I called the cops on Lily, who couldn't stop crying and begging me. She'd confessed that she did that because I rejected her advances. Everyone felt so irritated and angry. The police came and took her away. I asked her son to pack his things. While he went to do as I asked, my parents came to apologize to me. I forgave them, but I told them there was never going to be a close relationship between us, as they'd killed every closeness the day they believed Lily and my aunt's words over mine. I forgave the rest of my family. After hugging my siblings goodbye and giving them my contact, I left with Lily's son. Lily's co-workers happened to hear about what happened, and they expressed their disgust for her. At the court hearing, nearly all of them were present. I could see her trying to hide her face, but it wasn't possible. Not when her hands were cuffed. The court sentenced her to 15 years imprisonment for physical and mental abuse of her son. It was also discovered that she'd assaulted a young boy 2 years back and paid his mother to keep quiet. She got another 15 years for that. She was also made to pay for my therapy sessions and that of her son and the boy she assaulted. Someone had taken a video of it and posted it online, where internet users had hurled all manner of insults on her. Once it was all over, I moved into another apartment with her son. I was going to raise him as my child and take care of him in the best way I could. I also hoped to be able to get married after I was done with therapy. Lily's son was there for me. He felt like he owed me something after what his mother had put me through, and also for taking care of him. Good boy, isn't he?
Hi there, my name is Wendy, and I wanted to share a cautionary tale. Please listen carefully so that if you are ever in this situation, that you can avoid a lot of heartache and pain. I will say, though, that things did work out for the best, though, in the end. Let me start by saying this is a story about my best friend, Dave. Dave and I have been friends since we were children, and we have cheered each other on through everything in life. So when he came to me and told me that he met an amazing girl, I was incredibly happy for him, and I wanted to know everything about this new mystery woman. He told me that her name was Taylor, and that she was a lot like me. He said she was funny, charming, and very pretty. So of course I demanded to meet her, as I wanted to know if maybe I would be good friends with her as well. However, our first meeting didn't exactly go very well.
Wendy, I would like for you to meet Taylor. Taylor, this is my best friend, Wendy.
It's so great to finally meet you. Dave has told me so many good things about you. She looked me up and down and grimaced. I was so confused by the way she was acting that I didn't know what to say next.
Oh, this is Wendy. Yeah, nice to meet you.
After a few minutes of some awkward small talk, I excused myself so I could use the restroom. I didn't really have to go, but I needed to walk away so I could collect my thoughts and figure out if I had somehow offended Taylor without meaning to. However, as I walked away, I overheard Taylor speaking to Dave.
You didn't say that she was that pretty. How am I not supposed to be jealous that you spend so much time with her?
What do you mean? Wendy is like a sister to me. I don't see her that way.
Oh, don't treat me like an idiot. She's hot, and I don't want you spending time with her anymore. It's only a matter of time before she makes a move on you.
She isn't like that. You have nothing to worry about.
Enough! Dave, do as I say, or else.
When I came back to the table, Dave looked really upset and Taylor was fuming. They excused themselves and said that they needed to call it an early night, and after what I had overheard, I understood why. Weeks passed and Dave and I hung out less and less, although he still texted and called me from time to time. It felt like I was losing my friend. Months passed and then I got a text from Dave that completely caught me off guard. In it, Dave mentioned that he and Taylor had gotten engaged. I felt a rush of mixed emotions. Part of me was very happy for my friend, but also saddened because of who he had become engaged to. Another few months passed, and I called up Dave and asked if he wanted to hang out one random night. But he said that he couldn't, that he and Taylor had important plans that he couldn't get out of. It made me incredibly sad, and in an attempt to try to make myself feel better, I decided to head out and try to get myself some ice cream. There is a cute little place near my house that has some amazing flavors that I often go to, and when I arrived, I saw none other than Taylor inside the shop. I was surprised to see that she wasn't alone, though. In fact, she was with a guy I had never seen before, and the two were making out. Even though I was in shock, I quickly pulled out my phone and took some photos of the two of them, and then quickly walked away and instantly called up Dave. Dave, listen, I know that you said, but I also know that it was a lie.
No, it was the truth.
Dave, it's okay. I don't care that it was a lie. I need to see you.
Well, no, I'm busy. Taylor is making dinner right now.
Now I was just beyond annoyed, and I hung up on Dave and disregarded his last words and went across town to his apartment. Without knocking, I let myself in and went and found Dave in his kitchen sitting at the kitchen table. It was clear that he had been crying, and to my surprise, he had a massive black eye and a split lip. From where I was, I could see bruises on his arms as well. Dave, what happened to you?
Wendy? I really didn't want you to see me like this.
Did Taylor do this to you? Dave sheepishly looked down at the table, avoiding my gaze. I could tell that he was incredibly embarrassed. Dave, it's going to be okay. Tell me what happened. After a couple of minutes of heavy breathing, he began to tell me that he and Taylor had been having a lot of fights lately, and that every time they argued, she would get violent and hit him or throw things. The last few times, she had even punched him. When I heard this, I knew that he needed to break off his engagement with Taylor. Dave, you really need to break off the engagement. You deserve better than Taylor. You especially deserve to be with someone that doesn't abuse you.
It's not that simple, though. We really love each other, and she doesn't mean to get so angry.
Does she mean to cheat on you like this? I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos I took, and I could tell that he was furious. After a few minutes, he asked me to leave so that he could think about everything, but he promised that he would call me the next day and let me know what he would have decided. And so I left, but I was incredibly worried. The next day, he did call, but he had not decided. I tried to persuade him to see the light and accept that Taylor was all wrong for him. There were weeks of this. I kept trying to get him to change his mind, but he kept flip-flopping on the decision. It was like that all the way up to the day that they had planned for their wedding. Even though I wasn't invited, I decided to get dressed up and attend just to see if Dave would make the right choice. I hid in one of the back rows and waited for the ceremony to begin, but after an hour, people all around me began to panic. I overheard people whispering that Taylor had shown up, but Dave hadn't. As the time for the ceremony came and passed, people stopped whispering and began to speak openly how they had heard that Dave found out that Taylor had been cheating on him, not only with the guy that I had spotted her with, but several other men as well. Apparently, it wasn't a very well-kept secret that Taylor was a serial cheater. It filled me with such relief to know that Dave had made the right choice and had called off the wedding, and after knowing this, I tried to get up and leave as quietly and stealthily as I could. But some of Taylor's bridesmaids saw me and ran and told her that I was there, and she stormed over to me.
You! This is all your fault! You just couldn't stand that he was going to marry me, that you had to spread rumors about me and sabotage my wedding.
What rumors? I took photos of you cheating on Dave and showed them to him, but I had no idea that you were sleeping with dozens of different men. And I had no idea that you were physically abusive towards him until I saw him the night I showed him proof that you were unfaithful.
More lies! I'll kill you for ruining my wedding!
In her wedding dress, she flung herself at me and tried to wrestle me to the ground so that she could punch and choke me, but I just stepped back, causing her to fall to the ground in front of me. Before she could lunge again, I kicked her right in the face as hard as I could, breaking her nose. Blood shot out and stained her dress as she was launched backwards from my kick. And as she fell hard on the ground, I turned and ran out of the church before her bridesmaids could come after me. I then headed over to Dave's place and found him celebrating with his groomsmen. They had turned their getting ready together party into one dedicated to him, dodging a very dangerous bullet party. When I arrived, he thanked me profusely and promised to never let anyone ever come between us ever again. He swore that if I hadn't had his back and discovered Taylor was cheating on him, that he would more than likely have married her today. And he would have spent the rest of his life being miserable, and more than likely living constantly in fear that she would attack him at any moment. Apparently, when she got home that night that I had showed him the picture, he had waited till she fell asleep, and then he went through her phone and discovered that she had cheated on him with more than 8 different men, and none of them knew about the others. He had known right then that there was no way that he was going to marry her, but he wanted to protect himself and ensure that he got revenge on her, and so he made sure that every bill associated with the wedding was in her name and only her name. He then made plans to clean out their joint bank account and transfer all that money into his personal account, and then changed the locks on his place and had a restraining order filed in her name so that she couldn't get retaliation against him. He also told his parents to boycott his wedding and told them his reason. It was rather genius, really, and sure enough, she tried to come over hours later to scream at him for missing the wedding and for cleaning out the account. As soon as I saw her pull up, I called up the police and reported her, and as she tried to break in, the police that I called showed up and restrained her and dragged her away. She ended up spending the week in jail in her blood-soaked wedding dress because she violated the restraining order. After that, we didn't see her again, but we have heard that she has been married and divorced 4 times since then. She keeps finding men, and after they learn how disloyal she is and how abusive she is, they kick her to the curb. I have no doubt that she will be alone for the rest of her miserable life. As for Dave and I, though, we got right back into being amazing friends, and over time we came to realize that our friendship was becoming something much more. We finally figured out that we loved one another, and that we were perfect for each other. And one day Dave proposed to me, and I said yes. Since then, we are even more inseparable and have 3 children together as well. So like I said, things did end up working out in the end. I suppose, deep down, I had always known that I loved Dave as more than a friend. I was just taken aback by the knowledge that he felt the same way. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more stories. However, shock froze me as the necklace was found in my room, in one of my drawers.
You steal now, Sally? Where did I go wrong with you?
I can't take this. I can't raise a thief. You're leaving my house today.
I cried and went on my knees, begging them desperately to not send me out. I'm not a thief. I didn't take her necklace. Believe me. Please. Don't send me out. My pleas fell on deaf ears. Jake threw my things out and urged my parents to let me go. Of course, they weren't unwilling. I was sent out of my parents' home. Have you ever felt like the least favorite among your siblings? Or have you been shown by your parents that you're their least favorite child? How did it feel? I have experienced it, alongside hatred from my siblings, and I'll share it with you. My name's Sally, and I was born as the middle child. I had 2 siblings, Penny and Jake. Penny was 3 years younger than me, while Jake was 3 years older than me. My parents were quite wealthy. I mean, we had our own house, 2 cars, and they both ran a small company and a fashion brand. I couldn't remember my experiences before Penny was born, but I knew that as she grew, Jake liked her more. He would always hit and hurl insults at me on the slightest provocation, but Penny was his beloved sibling who didn't deserve any of that. Jake and Penny were very brilliant and would often top their various classes. I was brilliant too, but there was high competition in my class. I was always coming 2nd or 3rd, the top ones only having a slightly higher percentage than mine. But it didn't seem satisfactory to my parents.
They study well, that's why they're able to pass you. Study harder and top your class too. Your siblings do it so easily.
You're older than Penny, but your unseriousness is starting to make it appear the other way around. You should look up to Penny and Jake and learn from them.
I was a sensitive child. Words like that got to me, and it would make me cry. However, my family always got annoyed and called me a weakling. My parents will ignore all my birthdays, but will celebrate that of Penny and Jake, and will make me clean. After the celebration, according to them, I won't amount to anything, since I wasn't as intelligent as Penny and Jake. My parents were bad, but my siblings were insane, especially Jake. I had no idea what wrong I did to him. He was always so happy whenever he got me into trouble with either Penny or my parents. Once, I got mercilessly beaten up by Penny. I was 16 then, and she was only 13. I'd just had my bath after returning from school. As I went to sit at the dining table to enjoy my meal, Jake suddenly came up to me, wearing a devilish grin. "What do you want, Jake? I'm not in the mood for your annoyance, please. I'll appreciate it if you leave me alone now."
Oh, I'd actually come to tell you something important. But since you've asked me to leave, I have no choice.
I didn't say anything. I didn't even lift my eyes from my plate. He walked away laughing. I wondered what it was that he wanted to say. I became curious. The only time Jake ever came to me like that were times when he put me in trouble. Yes. Jake loved to see me getting punished. He would lie against me to my parents, and without asking for my side of the story, they would punish me. Jake was always at a corner, chuckling happily to himself. He also did it to Penny. He would lie about me saying something, and Penny, with her bad temper, would come and fight me. Penny had grown bigger than me. She would easily pass as my elder sister, and that made her even more comfortable bullying me. Whenever Jake liked to make Penny beat me up, he made sure my parents were going to return late so that I'd be asleep before their home. Just after I finished eating and attempted to stand up, 2 hands pressed on my shoulders, forcing me back to the chair. My heart raced. I knew it was Penny. No one else could do that. I turned and saw her behind me, holding a frown.
How dare you? How dare you call me a fat pig in front of your friend?
I didn't even have any friends, so how could I have said that about her? I tried to tell her what she heard was a lie. I don't have any friends, Penny. I only speak to my classmates at school, and it's only a few of them. They sometimes don't even respond to me.
That lie isn't gonna work, Sally. You're a liar and a freaking pretender. All you do is hate on me and talk bad things about me because of your stupid jealousy.
I swear to you, Penny, I've never spoken ill of you to anyone.
You have. You always do. Jake tells me every time. Right, Jake?
Just then, Jake showed up again with a mischievous smile on his face.
Yes. I heard her on 2 different occasions. Her friends also told me. According to them, they felt sad for us because Sally's our sister, and all she does is badmouth us. Well, you especially.
Before I could speak, Penny slapped me. I screamed and fell to the floor, feeling the pain pierce my cheek. Tears quickly gathered in my eyes as I stared at them in disbelief. My own siblings. Jake is lying, Penny. I never said anything bad about you both. I don't have anyone to even say anything to.
Shut up, you liar. You're so filthy. I can see why Mom and Dad hate you. You're ugly, dull, and filled with jealousy and hatred for others. I'm going to make sure Mom and Dad punish you.
Next time, be careful of the things you say. It's unfair to speak so ill of people, especially your siblings.
I cried as I watched them walk away. I tried to go to my room, but I found out that they'd locked my door. I guess they needed it to be easier for my parents to punish me. I sat down on the cold kitchen floor until my parents returned home. Once they settled in the living room, my siblings tabled their lies before them. The next thing I heard was my dad calling my name loudly. Fearfully, I walked out of the kitchen and went to them.
Are you crazy? How could you do such things about your sister?
I'm so disappointed in you. How can you be such a hater? She's your sister. They're your siblings. I can't believe you.
I had no idea what they told my parents. Jake lied. I didn't say anything about them to anyone. He's lying against me. My tears and pleas weren't enough to save my ass from getting whooped. Jake held me while my parents hit me, and Penny stood away from us, smiling happily. They were cruel to me, but I couldn't hate them. I couldn't bring myself to hate them. I kept my distance and only spoke when spoken to. Jake and Penny didn't stop taunting me. Whenever my parents weren't home, they would insult me and follow me around, annoying me in any way possible and daring me to respond. Of course, I never did. I knew too well then to say anything. Responding would only mean getting whooped by my parents who never listened to me. Time passed, and I was soon done with high school. On my graduation day, Jake had an event in college. My parents chose to attend his event, and ditched my graduation.
It's just a party. Jake's event is more important. He makes us proud.
I'd rather be at his event than be at your graduation when you won't even be announced as the best graduating student. It's too embarrassing.
Of course, I felt bad. Regardless, I enjoyed my graduation. I didn't speak to anyone, but I felt good being among the students. I had to stay at home for 1 year because my parents didn't feel the need to send me to college yet. Since they hastened my sister's education, she graduated 1 year after I did. My brother had skipped class that day to attend her graduation. My sister wasn't the best graduating students, but anyone could see the pride smiles on their faces as they clapped and yelled out congratulations to her. I cried a little when I went to the restroom. That night, when we arrived home, my parents gifted her a very beautiful necklace. I hadn't gotten anything. She shoved it in my face, telling me how she was our parents' favorite and how they loved her more. My parents heard all of that and simply laughed about it. 1 week later, Penny suddenly cried from her bedroom.
Someone has stolen my necklace!
The whole house went into panic as we began looking around for the necklace. Jake suddenly suggested for everyone's rooms to be checked. I didn't have any opposition. However, shock froze me as the necklace was found in my room, in one of my drawers.
You steal now, Sally? Where did I go wrong with you?
I can't take this. I can't raise a thief. You're leaving my house today.
I cried and went on my knees, begging them desperately to not send me out. I'm not a thief. I didn't take her necklace. Believe me, please, don't send me out. My pleas fell on deaf ears. Jake threw my things out and urged my parents to let me go. Of course, they weren't unwilling. I was sent out of my parents' home. They took my credit card and all the cash I had, leaving me stranded. It was a tough period for me. I roamed around streets, begging for money from anyone I came across. A few were kind enough to give me, but others simply shamed and pushed me away. Luckily, a good Samaritan found me and helped me. I told her all about what happened, and she felt so bad for me. She took me to her home and helped me with a job. After 2 years of doing multiple jobs and saving up enough money, I was able to move out and get my own apartment. The lady had become like a mother to me. I'd grown to love her so much. Life was tough, but I didn't give up. I worked so much harder. I was also able to begin my college education. After 4 years, at age 26, I started my fashion company. I hadn't heard about my parents' business for years, but I didn't care. I worked so hard to grow my company. Fortunately for me, people soon began showing massive interest in my brand. Soon, big brands began seeking collaboration with me. Life was beginning to go smoothly. By the time I was 28, I'd become one of the young rich ladies in the country. My business largely expanded with branches in 5 different countries. I built 2 houses. The kind lady who assisted me lived in one with her husband and children. We were all like a family. Surprisingly, my parents and siblings showed up in my house one day. Jake was on a wheelchair and Penny was heavily pregnant. My parents looked so old and tattered. They were seeking help from me. Jake had been rendered crippled in jail after a failed robbery attempt. Penny had gotten a great job, but had been scammed by her ex-boyfriend who'd pretended to be an investor. He'd not only scammed Penny, but also my parents. They'd already gone broke after spending a lot to bail Jake and have him treated. After Penny's ex-boyfriend absconded with their remaining wealth, they were reduced to church rats. They lived on the streets and fed by begging people. It was exciting to see them suffering. Perhaps it was karma for what they did to me, for all the trauma they gave me, the years I had to live with constant panic attacks, the sadness I felt, everything. They begged for money and a place to live, but I refused them. I would rather burn my money to ashes than help you all with anything. Get out of my house and don't let me ever see you again. They continued begging, my parents in tears, but I refused. I called on my guards who threw them out of my house. They were unfair to me throughout my life and never regarded me as their child. I don't have any reason to treat them well. Tit for tat. A few months later, I heard Penny had died during childbirth, and the news of her passing had caused my dad to have a heart attack, and he died as well. So my mom now takes care of my crippled brother, and she cleans people's houses to make a living. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.